Hi everyone, it's Sharon here from I Restore Stuff, and I'm going to show you what I did today on my live with Essential Stencil using their Easter, Happy Easter set of 3 stencils in this one. And I'm also going to do the bakery sign from another set, which is just actually not a set, it's a single stencil, the bakery stencil. Making sure I've got my sign up the right way. Now you can see that I have just dipped my brush in a little bit of paint. Now I'm using Australian brand of chalk paint called Artisan, and it's a charcoal colour, so it's a really dark grey, so I thought that would make a great contrast to the white background of my sign. And I'm going to go over the entire stencil with the charcoal colour. And I offload it on that piece of paper there beside me. Just put a little bit on the end of the brush, rub it off onto the paper, and every time I stencil I repeat this tip that offloading is the key. So offloading as much paint as you can onto the paper, and then you'll be surprised how much still comes off onto the board through the stencil, and that prevents bleeding underneath the stencil. I'm using the Essential Stencil brushes, so they come in a set of 4 stencil brushes, and they're available on essentialstencil.com also. So don't forget to use my code I Restore Stuff, just all one word, I Restore Stuff, and that's in the description of this video. So if you use that code at the essentialstencil.com website, you'll get 10% off all of your orders, so any order that you make there. That includes the brushes, it includes the cute little wooden tag sets that you can get. We can use our mini tag stencils on. So what I'm going to do now, I want to use some really nice coloured paints to do the Easter eggs with, but what I'm going to do is just go over this with the charcoal, just the outline at least of the eggs, to create a bit of a border for the next part that I want to show you. So again, I still use a fairly dry brush, so just showing you now. You can see that some of the eggs aren't filled in completely, but I also want to make these eggs extend to the edges of the board, because my board is quite longer, a bit longer than the stencil itself. So I think the stencil is about 17 inches, and so I'm just adding these eggs again either side, and I've chosen, put the opposite patterns on the opposite sides. Just doing those outlines again, just with the charcoal colour in Artisan chalk paint. So if you're in Australia, you can get these paints from my website, irestorestuff.com. I sell a range of DIY furniture paints and products there. And I'm just showing you how I clean the stencil. So it should just come off with water if you've used water-based paints. Because I want to use coloured paints, different colours, I don't want that charcoal coming off onto my stencil. So I'm wiping that clean. And don't forget the back side of your stencils too. So just wiping those clean so that when I do the colour bits, they'll be beautiful. So this part that I want to show you now is how to create a background. So it looks like I'm going to completely cover over the pattern on the eggs, but what I want to do is create a background so that when I do go over the eggs with the stencils, with the pattern again, I can use a contrasting colour to this gorgeous blue that I'm using right now. So this colour blue is called Azure by Fusion Mineral Paint, and yep, I'm a retailer for Fusion Mineral Paint here in Australia as well. Some of the supplies that you could use for stenciling and that kind of thing, I've got on my Amazon storefront. If you want to check that out, if you go to my website irestorestuff.com, in my shop tab, I've got a shop tab, and right at the bottom you'll find my Amazon storefront. So if you go there, you'll find some things like stenciling supplies. You'll find wood signs and decor items that you can stencil on. You also might find some tools of trade there in another wish list that I've got going. So I've got a few different lists there. Some of the tools that I use when I'm doing my DIY and furniture painting, you'll find in my Amazon storefront there, so you can check that out. All right, this color I'm going to use next. I chose 3 colors for the different eggs because I thought 3 is a good number. I can just mix and match them all. And this is another color by Fusion Mineral Paint called Divine Lavender. So it's just a lovely lavender color. It might look a little gray on the video, but it's actually a kind of a pastel-y purple lavender color. So I'm creating again the background for my eggs. This is a fun sign for Easter 2021. This year is on Sunday, April the 4th, I think I said at the beginning of the video. I had a little piece of paper with it on there. And I think there was a few Easter signs, stencils, still left in the Essential Stencil shop. So they were kind of quickly disappearing. They do restock every now and then, but to get yours in before Easter, I would check that out now. So don't forget to go to essentialstencil.com, use my code IRestoreStuff and save yourself 10% at the checkout. Okay, this orangey colour that I'm using right now is Fusion Mineral Paint in Coral. And it is just that gorgeous coral colour. I've actually used the coral and the azure together before, and they're a lovely combination, the bright bluey teal colour and the coral, and I think the purple works with that as well in there. So what I'm doing is just going around and see that charcoal having that the Easter eggs filled out on the outside of them did help with the outline. All right, I'm just going to show you the bakery sign now. Another fun one to put in your kitchen or somewhere like that. It's got bakery, bread, cakes, pastries, pies. They all sound good to me. Centering my sign there. So this one, I've got my painter's tape again today. So I was just holding it really still with my hand. But when the stencil itself hangs over the outside of the sign like this one, you can't really put painter's tape on it anyway. Again, I'm just using the charcoal colour in chalk paint. So it's a water-based paint, artisan chalk paint brand, which I sell here in Australia. And I'm smooshing the stencil brush right down into those grooves. So with this board, I actually just grabbed 2 offcuts of, I guess you call them, in Australia we call them click-clack flooring or tongue and groove boards, and I glued them together and then screwed some like bracing on the back of the board to keep them together. I just painted it white in some mineral paint, and right now going over that in my best stenciling technique that I know how, which is just dry brushing and swirling method. So you wipe off as much as excess of the paint as you can on a piece of paper down there beside me after dipping your brush in. Once you've got most of that removed off the brush, then go into the grooves there and then just giving it a little swirl, kind of a smush and a swirl is the technical terms I'm going to use. So the larger letters, obviously you need a little bit more coverage on those, but once you get to the smaller letters, you can see how often I've dipped into the paint, probably only twice during that whole bakery word. And now we've just got the little lines either side, and then the small words across the bottom: bread, cakes, pastries and pies. So I'm doing this bakery sign while we let that Easter egg hunt sign dry. Almost got that finished. There we go. Ta-da! And the big reveal. There we go. So you can kind of see how that works. Now, after that dries completely, what I'll do is I'll just give it a scuff sanding back to make it look even more aged. And now I'm placing the Easter egg hunt stencil back down over the eggs. Now what you could do, see the colours of those eggs there, you could add kids' names to those and leave them just like that if you wanted to. But today I'll show you how I can now put the patterns over the top. So see how we created a bit of an outline, coloured in the eggs, now we can go over them with the contrasting colour. So the first colour that I'm going to contrast and do the pattern with today is the coral. So I'm going to contrast that with both of these actually. I'll first of all do the spots over that azure colour. And then I'm just going to add that right over there on the purple colour also to create those stripes. There you go. Show you close up that didn't turn out too badly. And now for so we're finished with that what is it, the coral colour now, so just going to go over this one with the divine lavender. I'm using a makeup sponge just for something different. Thought we'd see how that went. So again with the makeup sponges, if you're using that method as well, or any kind of foam brush, just make sure you squeeze it out on your paper so you can't see it. It's just out of the shot there, but on that piece of paper I'm wiping off all the excess. Okay. You don't want excess on that as well, because excess paint, any excess paint will create a bit of bleed underneath your stencil. There you go. I should have used painter's tape, shouldn't I? Then it wouldn't have moved out of the way. So there we go. You can see how that turned out. And now for my other eggs. So I'm just using the colour, so when I've got the two different colours, I use the colour that I don't have. So here I don't have purple, so I'm grabbing that purple brush and just makeup sponge, sorry, and just going over those eggs with the purple. But these are gorgeous stencils. They work really well for Easter. You can probably put this on one of those I want to say garden stake kind of a peg that you can whack it into the ground and make a little fun sign out the front for the kids for Easter egg hunt. Tell them which way it's going to be. If you wanted to use this stencil in a different way, you could just put the words and then the eggs underneath, or the eggs on top, making kind of more of a vertical up and down sign. I'm just showing you my essential stencil brushes again. They come in the 4 different sizes, I think, from a 1/4 inch to a 7/8 inch, something like that. Using that gorgeous azure blue colour now to go over the last couple of eggs for our Easter egg hunt sign. So don't forget to use my code IRestoreStuff at essentialstencil.com to save you 10% on any of the stencils. They've just released their spring collection, which there are some gorgeous stencils in that collection. So if you haven't seen that already, the orders start shipping out this Friday. Here we go, Easter egg hunt and bakery. Hope you enjoyed that video. Thanks for subscribing.